I'd only meant it as a passing kindness, the sort of sentence you offer and forget, like holding a door or saying, "Take care," to a stranger. It was late afternoon, that quiet hour when the building seemed to exhale after a long day. The sun slanted low between the concrete blocks across the street, turning the dust in the air into floating gold. I was checking the mail, already half lost in thoughts about dinner and unanswered emails, when I noticed her standing a few steps away, pretending to be very interested in a coupon flyer. Her name was Lena. I knew that much because her mailbox was right next to mine. Apartment 3B. She'd lived there for almost a year, I thought, though time in apartment buildings stretches and compresses strangely. Some neighbors become ghosts you pass without seeing, others carve out a quiet space in your routine. Lena was the second kind, though neither of us would have said we were close. We exchanged polite nods, brief smiles, the occasional comment about the weather or the elevator that always got stuck on the fourth floor. She was the kind of person who seemed to apologize with her body before her mouth ever moved. Her shoulders curved inward as if she were trying to take up less space, her laughter quick and bright but cut short, like she was worried she'd used too much of it. Sometimes I heard raised voices through the walls at night, muffled, sharp-edged sounds that made me pause with a book half open or a dish held mid-a. I never caught words clearly enough to be certain, but I recognized the rhythm of anger well enough. It was the sound of someone being cornered. That afternoon, Lena wore a thin sweater despite the warmth. When she reached for her mail, the sleeve slipped back just enough for me to see it, a faint purple shadow blooming on her wrist, already yellowing at the edges. Not fresh, but not old either. The kind of mark that tells a story no one wants to hear. She noticed my eyes flicker down and immediately tugged the sleeve back, her fingers tightening like a reflex learned over time. "Oh," she said too quickly, smiling. "I'm just clumsy." I didn't respond right away. There are moments when your mind races ahead of your mouth, weighing consequences, excuses, polite exits. I thought of all the reasons to stay quiet. It wasn't my business. I could be wrong. Saying something might make things worse. But there was something in her eyes when she looked at me, tired, yes, but also alert, like someone waiting for a signal that may never come. I cleared my throat. "Are you okay?" It was the safest question in the world, broad enough to retreat from if she wanted. She hesitated. That hesitation felt louder than any answer. Then she nodded, too many times. "Yeah. Just tired. Work's been crazy." I believed that part. Lena worked long hours. I saw her leave early, return late, sometimes with grocery bags cutting red lines into her palms. I'd watched her fumble with her keys on nights when the hallway lights flickered, her phone pressed to her ear while someone on the other end spoke in a tone that made her shoulders tense. Once, months ago, I'd held the elevator door for her as she rushed in, breathless, apologizing even as she thanked me. She'd smelled faintly of soap and something floral, like she'd scrubbed herself down to the last trace of the day. We stood there in the shared silence of neighbors who know too much and not enough. The air felt thick, as if something unsaid was pressing between us. I don't know what pushed me then, maybe the bruise, maybe the memory of my own past mistakes, maybe the simple human exhaustion of watching someone slowly disappear into themselves. Before I could talk myself out of it, the words were already forming. "You know," I said quietly, keeping my voice low so it wouldn't echo down the hall, "you deserve better than this." The sentence landed between us like a dropped glass, fragile and impossible to take back. Lena froze. Not the casual stillness of someone listening, but the complete, breath-held kind. Her fingers tightened around the stack of envelopes, bending one corner. For a split second, panic flared in her eyes, and I wondered if I'd just made a terrible mistake. Maybe she'd laugh it off, tell me I didn't know what I was talking about, retreat behind the safety of her apartment door. Instead, something shifted in her face. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Her expression cracked, not into tears, but into recognition. As if I'd named something she'd been carrying silently for so long that hearing it spoken aloud felt almost unreal. She swallowed. "What?" The word came out small. I didn't elaborate. I didn't list reasons or offer solutions. Somehow, it felt important not to over-explain, not to turn it into advice or judgment. Just that, I said. Better. Her eyes dropped to the floor, then lifted again, searching my face as if checking for mockery or pity. She found neither, only a nervous sincerity I hadn't known how to hide. For a moment, I thought she might cry, and I braced myself for that awkward, helpless feeling of wanting to comfort someone without knowing how. But she didn't cry. She nodded once, a sharp, decisive movement, like she was agreeing with a thought she'd just reached on her own. "Okay," she said. Her voice was steadier than I expected. Then she turned and walked back toward her apartment, keys already in hand. No goodbye, no thank you. Just the quiet click of her door closing. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at my own reflection in the dull metal of the mailboxes. My heart was beating faster than it should have been for such a simple exchange. What had I done? For words, spoken without a plan, without permission. I felt exposed, as if I'd revealed something about myself in the process, my own history of settling, of staying quiet when I should have spoken. That evening passed in a haze. I cooked dinner and barely tasted it. The sounds from next door were muted, nothing out of the ordinary, yet I found myself listening anyway. Every thump in the hallway made me look up. Every distant voice made my stomach tighten. I replayed the moment over and over, analyzing my tone, my expression, wondering if I'd crossed a boundary that couldn't be uncrossed. As night settled in, the building grew quieter. Lights flicked off one by one across the courtyard. I sat on the couch with a book open on my lap, the same page unread for nearly an hour. My phone buzzed with notifications I ignored. Instead, my thoughts drifted to Lena. To the way she'd said, "Okay," like it was both an answer and a question. To the bruise she'd tried to hide. To the countless people who must have seen signs and said nothing. I told myself I'd done all I could. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a savior. I was just a neighbor who'd spoken a truth that felt obvious and dangerous all at once. Still, their words clung to me, heavier than I expected. They felt less like a comment and more like a promise I hadn't known I was making. When I finally went to bed, sleep came in fragments. I dreamed of doors opening and closing, of hallways stretching endlessly, of hands reaching for something just out of view. Each time I woke, my heart raced, as if waiting for a knock that never came. By morning, sunlight crept through the blinds, soft and ordinary. The world looked unchanged. I brewed coffee, trying to shake the lingering unease, telling myself the day would proceed like any other. Yet even as I lifted the mug to my lips, a strange certainty settled in my chest. Something had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the quiet way tectonic plates move beneath the surface, slow, inevitable, and impossible to undo.